Chapter 5, Character Deep Dive. Finally, it's time to dive deep into the characters. The main character, also known as the protagonist, is always the toughest to create. They are also the most important to get right. They set the theme for the whole book. You will want your readers to identify with them, root for them, cry when they are hurt, feel triumphant when they persevere and win in the end. To make this happen, that character must be three-dimensional. They should not be a Mary Sue, a character that has too many good characteristics without balancing flaws. If you are unsure if your character qualifies, there are online Mary Sue tests you can take to verify. I plan my characters out in a manner similar to creating a character in a role-playing game like Dungeons & Dragons. Names. Now, the character will need many things, starting with a name. Some authors love to create meaningful, significant names. Others are satisfied with something that sounds cool. I try to balance the two, with the added difficulty of using authentic names of the time period and place I'm writing in. Since my novels are mostly set in Ireland, I give my characters Irish names, and American audiences are used to the spelling and pronunciations. I try to find names in the records of the time that are easily pronounced and sound Irish. Orla, Donal, Cormac, names like that. I try to avoid vanilla names, like Mary, Jane, Tom, Joe, etc. You want your readers to remember the characters, and common names slide off the memory like butter off a hot knife. You want these names to stick like peanut butter. Gratuitous punctuation common to many fantasy novels can also be bad. If you write fantasy, please don't fall into the trap of making your name so unusual and alien that no one bothers learning it. Many readers will just skip over an odd name and get confused, especially if there are too many difficult ones. Names like T.F. Colander 3 will make readers just skip it. Motivation/goals. After you name them, they must have a motivation, a purpose that drives them through the story and conflict. That may or may not be the same as their goal. A person might be motivated by love, yet their goal is to have a family. They might be driven by revenge, but their goal is to get the bad guy arrested. They might act from desperation, but their goal is to survive. Goals are usually more immediate, one-time occurrences, while motivation is an underlying drive. Not all goals have to be overarching either. In fact, every scene should have a goal for the character. It might be to get a glass of ice water. It might be to brush their hair or drive to work. Things get in the way of that goal. This makes conflict, which is far more interesting to read about than everything going peachy keen. Yes, I just said peachy keen. Deal with it. Conflict. Once your motivations and goals are set, time to bring in some conflict. Internal conflict can be mental challenges, torn loyalties, personal insecurities. External conflicts can be anything from office drama to worldwide war. Let me say this loud for those in the back. There is no good story without good conflict. Description. You might want to get into the physical description of your character now. How old are they? Short? Tall? Do they have a gender? Hair color? Eyes? A hitched shoulder from a football injury? A limp? Blind? You don't have to get into great detail in the story, and better if you don't info dump at all, but it should be in your mind as the author and drop hints now and then. What does your character like to do? Do they have a pet? Do they like cooking? Making swords? Conjuring up demons from the depths of hell? Do they do these things well, or are they a screw-up? Do they have favorite phrases they like to say, especially when upset? Curses are a great way to build a character's uniqueness. I have a bad tendency to polarize my characters, especially the female leads. They end up being either contrary and sniping or passive and weak. I'm definitely going with the former for Grandma here, but I hope to make her kind as well. But with a nasty temper and a tendency to rap people hard with her walking stick. Because why not? I fill in her physical characteristics, her hobbies, her quirks, tics and habits, catchphrases, favorite curses, anything to humanize her. Does she like cloud watching? Play with her hair? Yell gadzooks when she meets someone new. Once you've built up a nice, strong character profile for your main character with several paragraphs of details on their personality, appearance, and goals, do the same for the antagonist. Yes, they should be just as three-dimensional as the protagonist. Each antagonist is a hero in their own mind. Antagonist exercise: write up a description of your antagonist, including physical description, some backstory, pet phrases, goals, and stakes. You should have a good collection of people from your synopsis at this point. I've got a dozen in mind at this point, including Irish, Normans, Norsemen, and some Fae. Make some inflexible, some easygoing. Don't go for the obvious. Make the churchman the easygoing one and the fool the guy with a stick up his butt. Mix it up. Find those flaws and good points. No one is a perfect villain or a perfect hero in real life, and vanilla, one-dimensional characters make stories boring. Make sure each of your characters has motivations, and for the bigger ones, good story arcs and growth within the story. The walk-on characters don't need it to the same extent as the protagonist, but at least a motivation, virtues and flaws, and some physical characteristics. Once the characters are fleshed out, go back to your synopsis and reread it. Do the motivations and goals make sense for the plot points? If not, adjust either character sheets or the synopsis. Make refinements. Add another subplot or combine a few. Maybe you need more characters to make it work. Adjust and revise as needed. Now, it's time to leave this project for a while. I'm going back to editing an earlier manuscript. That gives me time to let the synopsis, characters, and scenes percolate in my brain while my palette clears.